Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Real Hawk Talk. I am Brian Nemhauser. You can find me and all of these shows everywhere you get your content: YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, at Hawk Blogger, as well as anywhere you get your podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify, and so forth. We always appreciate a 5-star review. And we got a little bit of a smaller crew tonight. One of our crew fell ill, Evan Hill. So we have Jeff Simmons and at Real Jeff Simmons. Jeff, I gotta admit, it's nice to do a 2-person show every once in a while. We can just talk.
I know, but I was a little excited for a bit of a reunion from the weekend.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's been like for you. Obviously, you have Thanksgiving tomorrow, and you're probably busy just getting ready for that, and you've been to VMAC. It's been kind of hard getting back to reality. That was such like a surreal weekend. Coming back to it's been like dark and rainy here, and it's been hard to kind of come to grips with reality. I was definitely out of my reality for 3 days, and so I was kind of excited to see everyone again.
I know, me too. I mean, we even tried to go to Derek after Evan was, because we wanted to have kind of a Nashville reunion show, and Derek's sick. So,
He's sick too?
everybody's sick. You got sick, but you're good enough to where you can do the show. It's I have a feeling everybody that went to Nashville is probably dealing with some sort of cold right about now. But we got a lot to talk about. There's news to talk about. There's the game to talk about. We'll make our predictions, all that kind of stuff. I got to tell you though, I'm such an idiot, man. I'm so stupid. So the Seahawks have done their, I think a good job of kind of separating their schedule because of Thanksgiving. They're not doing any media availability tomorrow. That's great. I wouldn't have gone anyway, but they did their coordinators availability in the afternoon. And I was like, I got so much Thanksgiving prep to do. I'm just going to bail on the coordinators. And the whole reason I bailed on the coordinators because I wanted to make this. I've got it in my head that I'm going to make a pear tart for Thanksgiving. I don't know why. I don't know why this has come to me. I was like, I'm determined. I have no idea what I'm doing. I have a feeling the recipe is going to be good because it was in French and had to be translated. But every time I make a step forward, I'm like, oh, nope, there's an ingredient I'm missing. I go back out, get it. And this last one, it was like the crust was supposed to be some French thing. I didn't understand. It said, or you can use puff pastry. So I used puff pastry and I put it in this tart dish and I was all proud and I was baking it. And I open up the oven. It looks like some kind of Frankenstein. It's just a total disaster. It's unusable. So I just put in an Instacart order for ready-made crusts, and we're just gonna throw this thing together. Hopefully, it comes close to being good. But man, I should try hard, try less. I should do less, Jeff. Make it easier on myself.
Yeah, that seems very optimistic. Trying to make that dish. I've eaten one of your Thanksgiving meals before, and basically everything we had was a hit. But I don't know if I would go that far. That's pretty aggressive. That's stick to your skills.
I think you're right. I've learned my lesson. I did get to make almond cream for the first time, and I thought I literally am in the store asking people, where do I get almond cream? And they're looking at me like that doesn't exist. And
no one's ever asked us that before.
You have to actually make it. It's like a thing, like almond flour and sugar and eggs and whatever. That tastes really good. And the pears, we're gonna poach pears. I could do the whole thing. It's gonna be crazy. I will share pictures of whatever this turns out to be, disaster or not. I'll share pictures with everyone. But yeah, I mean, you guys made a trip out here, you and Evan, for Thanksgiving a few years ago. That was a very fun visit, not a fun game. 49ers Thanksgiving win. But Nashville, man, what was your kind of takeaway from that whole experience?
I'm still riding the high of the weekend. I was blown away at the amount of Seahawks fans I came across. Think about it for me. I'm coming from Toronto. The reason I was telling a lot of people at our show the other night, the reason I kind of wanted to get involved with this in the first place was I don't know that many Seahawks fans in Toronto, and I didn't grow up around Seahawks fans like a lot of people did. I wanted to find people to talk, and just going on my plane and seeing 10 Seahawks fans heading to Nashville, that struck me, and I didn't think, and that was just a mini appetizer of what I was in for. And I was in Nashville 10, 15 years ago for a bachelor party, and I hadn't been there since. the whole city is so much more energetic and so much busier. And we went out for drinks on Friday night after we all got meet up for the first time, and I was blown away at the amount of people there. And one of the guys who was there the week before was like, "It's quiet here," and I was shocked. I was just shocked. I was shocked at how much I liked all the bars in the Broadway area. And then once I got to explore the city the next day, the amount of Seahawks fans in that city. I heard Mike obviously talk about this, but it was wild. Like I felt like I saw a Seahawks fan everywhere, and I didn't see any Titans jerseys until even Sunday. There were barely Titans fans in the city, but just the amount of Seahawks fans, the amount of good energy, the amount of fun everyone was having. Like the game honestly felt like the least interesting part of the weekend. And it was just there was so much going on all weekend, and the Seahawks fans were just so celebratory. It was so much fun. It's been hard to come back to reality from.
It's a good thing that we're good guys, because I sat down on the couch with my wife, Rachel, I think it was last night, and we open up Hulu and we're looking for something to watch, and up on the screen comes Exotic Dancers of Nashville, and I just out of a reflex, I'm like, I didn't know there were exotic dancers were a big thing in Nashville. And she says, "Good for you." And I was honest, we didn't know.
We were pretty PG-13.
We were just hitting the bars and eating some food. And unfortunately, Josh Cashman doesn't know how to order pizza. There was a big debate that went on about Domino's pizza, and that Evan, Josh, a bunch of the guys were like, Domino's is good. And I think you and I are on the other side of this in that Domino's is whatever. It's one of my last choices. But if I have the choice between a Pizza Hut pizza and Domino's, which I think are equivalent quality levels, I'll take Pizza Hut every day.
I don't even think it's close. Domino's to me, you get what you pay for. You pay $8 for a pizza, and that's the value proposition. But in terms of taste and quality, Josh and ordering things are things. That was one of my takeaways from the weekend. Josh has a lot of skills, but ordering things are not up there. But there's a great pizza story with Josh, but I'm not a Domino's guy. I think you get what you pay for. It's good at the right moment. I love the pizza tracker, though. But Toronto, for all my bashing on Toronto, has amazing pizza. But Pizza Hut is the perfect greasy pizza. If you want that fast food style greasy pizza, a plain pepperoni pizza from there is just, it hits every time.
Yeah, and I see someone here saying that Round Table is pretty good. Round Table clears both of these. Round Table pepperoni is one of the best. I don't know if you probably haven't had Round Table up there,
no.
but Round Table is fantastic. It's not easily accessible, and certainly not really in the same. I wouldn't put it in the same category as Pizza Hut and Domino's, because those are fast food order, pizza places. But I'm sure this is what everyone came here to listen to. Let's get to some news relative to the Seahawks, because man, there was a lot of friggin' news today, man. I felt like I was writing a blog article when I was going through the Seahawks, different roster moves they made. So let's start with the roster moves, then we'll get into the injury report. All right, and we'll talk about for the Vikings and for the Seahawks. So roster moves first. If I can find it.
Yeah, where do you even start? There's 100.
I mean, there's so many. So it should be right here in my own Twitter profile. I should know them by heart, but I want to make sure I don't miss anything because there's so many. Give me one more second. All right, here we go. All right, so the Seahawks. Still not finding it. Okay, here we go. The Seahawks signed Cam Akers to the 53-man roster. They added Shaquille Griffin from the practice squad to the 53-man roster. They added Patrick O'Connell, the linebacker, from the practice squad to the 53-man roster. They put Chaz Surratt, the linebacker, on IR. If you missed it, they waived Darian Kendrick, the cornerback, yesterday. He was claimed by the Los Angeles Rams, so he went from the Rams to the Seahawks, back to the Rams. Practice squad-wise, the Seahawks signed Quandre Diggs officially to practice squad. They signed running back Myles Gaskin back to the practice squad. They signed wide receiver Jimmy Holiday. They let Logan Brown go, and Patrick O'Connell and Shaquille Griffin got moved up. And we're not done, Jeff. Riley Mills, the guy that we've been waiting to kind of see, the 5th round pick who they traded up for, who was really injured in a bowl game or in the college playoffs, was designated to return to practice. He had his first practice of his career. So his 21-day window opens to where he can eventually be activated and added back to the roster. Thoughts on, all these movements?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that they didn't activate Julian Love today. I was kind of hoping they'd see that. I think that's the biggest story. Most of it is just bottom of the roster stuff that came out of the game the other day. Like we saw Surratt go down. We know they need linebacker depth. Patrick O'Connell looked pretty good. The Kendrick for Griffin move was a little surprising, and maybe that was what happened on the punt return the other day. Maybe that was something that's been the makings for a while, but I don't know if Shaq Griffin's like the special teams kind of corner. But overall, mostly bottom of the roster stuff. Really interesting with obviously Diggs coming in and Okada not going on IR. Mills is it's a tough situation because I always assumed this was a redshirt year based on the timing of his injury. And now he has a 21-day practice window. And so I don't know where he's at in terms of can he play this weekend? Can he play next week? If he say he gets to the end of the 21 days, now you're not putting him into a game until week 15. And that's the Rams game. That's the Colts game. Are you really comfortable just putting him in there? It's kind of a weird spot for him where he might just be on the inactive list and they might just build him up and see what he's like. But hey, if he can help, it's probably an upgrade over some of the spots and take some snaps away from other guys. But we're starting to run out of time. There's only 6 weeks left. And I don't think you're just going to drop him in for that Rams, Colts, playoff, Niners stretch. And so I don't see that as the biggest news. I think it's great for him. But I'm very curious who starts at safety this week and what that rotation's like. And Cam Akers is the Holani thing, so nothing too big there.
Yeah, I kind of tried to simplify it. I went through all those things, but I simplified it in another tweet where I basically was like, okay, you had Darian Kendrick at corner. You've now moved to Shaquille Griffin. All right, so that's one swap. You had George Holani at running back. They did not put him on IR, which is good news, but now you have Cam Akers as the 3rd running back. You had Chaz Surratt as the backup linebacker and special teams guy. You got Patrick O'Connell there instead. And then you had Ty Okada as your deep safety. He did not go on IR to your point, but now you've got Quandre Diggs. And Quandre Diggs, I don't think it's out of the question that he plays this weekend or is active at least this weekend. He talked about it in his locker today that the systems are very similar. There's some verbiage differences, but he can pretty much roll with this. It's the same disciple, Denard Wilson of Mike McDonald. And obviously Quandre, his strength is being a smart veteran guy. So I still think probably DeAnthony Bell and Kobe Bryant are your starters, but we might see Quandre Diggs active this weekend.
I'd be surprised if he's not activated gets the call up from the practice squad, because if those guys are there, the only deep backup safety is Eamon Warrior, who's playing nickel. I think they're going to need to have another body up, and I don't think Diggs would play special teams. So Bell's probably going to have to play all his special teams duties as well. So yeah, they don't really have any other safeties at this point. They're hoping Love would be back now with him and Okada down. Yeah, you have to sign a guy up the street, and he might play.
Yeah. The Riley Mills thing, I think there's a little bit more to it, because here's a couple things that come to mind for me, Jeff.
Yeah.
If nothing else, and this is more to your point first, him being able to practice is a really important thing. It's good for him. It's good for other people. He can get reps. He can give other people time off. He's going to have, quote, fresh legs, although he is coming back from a rehab of a leg injury. And so even if after 21 days, they just put him on the roster, but he never plays, getting that practice time is valuable for him. So I think that's one. But the other part that I think is less aware, other people are probably less aware of, is Jaron Reed's on IR. And while the expectation is he's coming back, he had to have 2 surgeries on this situation to get it fixed. You hope and assume that it's going to be okay. You also don't know exactly what the time frame is of when he'll be back. In the meantime, Mike Morris has been getting some more snaps. Mike Morris has been on the injury report the last 2 weeks. And today he was limited participant again with the knee. Now he's played. He hasn't missed a game, but you're starting to get a little bit thin at that defensive tackle spot, and specifically kind of the three-tech style defensive tackle, not the Quentin Bohannas and Brandon Peely, nose tackle types. So it's possible that Riley Mills may become available at a very opportune time.
Yeah, he fits more the Morris role than I guess the Reed role. Their body types are very similar. I think Mills projects as a better prospect. I think Mills would have been second, third round kind of player had he not got hurt. So I think he offers a little more than more. So I think if anyone's going to lose snaps there, and if there's any role you can fit him in, it'd probably be what Mike Morris is doing. And so yeah, that knee injury is one that did slip my mind. That's not something I noticed as well. And Nwosu is also banged up, and he missed practice today, and he left the game. And I don't know if they're going to rest him. I don't know if they're just easing him in. I usually don't get keyed in until Friday with some of those older players, but he did leave the game with injury on Sunday. So might be a spot where you need some ends a little quicker than you might thought.
You talked about the injury situation. Let's go through it. So for the Seahawks, Uchenna Nwosu did not practice today. And they're saying this is an ankle issue. I don't know why I said knee. It's an ankle issue. So that's new. And it was not injury related resting player designation. It was just an ankle. Ernest Jones, full practice. So that's good.
That's a big deal.
Gray Zabel limited. I don't think that that's a bad thing. I just think that, he played. They're going to be cautious with him, as he's practicing. Ken Walker limited with the same glute that showed up last week, but I think that that's fine. Other things of note there. Mike Morris, as I said, was limited with the knee. Obviously Ty Okada, George Halani, those guys didn't practice. I think those were the main kind of takeaways from the Seahawks side. Any thoughts on those notes?
Not really. I think Zabel might be limited on Wednesday for the next month. We're in December next week. This was a guy we thought had season-ending injury, and he made it back within a week. So I think they're going to do what they can to manage him as best they can. Overall, nothing concerning.
And then the Vikings, interestingly, Christian Darrisaw, their left tackle, did not practice. Donovan Jackson, their left guard, did not practice. Edge Jonathan Grenard was limited. He's been out the last few weeks, was expected to play against the Packers, but didn't. Edge Dallas Turner, who played in place of Grenard and played pretty well, has been limited. And this is a big one, Jeff. JJ McCarthy practiced today, limited. After all the reports were that they don't expect it and Max Brosmer is going to get his first start, the door is now creaking open to JJ McCarthy actually playing in this game.
So there's a long way for him to go still. He didn't do any individual drills. He was just doing team drills on the side. He still has a lot of hurdles to clear, but the story coming out this morning was he's not expected to play. And the Vikings have not played anyone this season who's been in concussion protocol. So they've been very clear with their handling of it. And Brosmer took all the first team reps today. I still think he's got a long way to go to get into this game. But yeah, the fact he's out there at all, considering the reports where this guy's not going to play, that's definitely something to watch the next. So how does it work tomorrow? Do they practice? Is it a walkthrough?
I don't know. I don't know if we're given information about what the Seahawks schedule is. The Vikings are going to do a morning practice and then take the afternoon off. But I don't know. I don't know what the Seahawks are going to do. I wouldn't be surprised if they do some sort of morning practice as well.
Yeah.
But
so I think Friday and tomorrow will be the big, and I think we'll get a pretty good indication. But this has been common with how the Vikings have handled concussions. I did some reading today on their setup, and that I think he's still got a long way to make it back for Sunday.
Yeah, the other pieces or players that are worth mentioning, safeties Theo Jackson and Josh Metellus were both limited as well. It's a lot of meaningful starter, injuries for the Vikings to monitor. Kevin O'Connell did kind of indicate that Donovan Jackson, it sounded like he was a little further from being likely to play. They want to see, he couldn't play if the game was today, but they're hoping it will improve. Christian Darrisaw, it sounds like they said they're expecting him to maybe get some snaps later this week. But I mean, Jeff, you get a rookie undrafted quarterback going into Lumen Field. If he doesn't have his starting left tackle and if he doesn't have a starting left guard against this defense, I mean, that's not an easy assignment.
No, and last game, I think a lot of the people were like, "What's wrong with the Seahawks defense? Why did they let Cam Ward do so much?" And if you put a stationary quarterback back there last Sunday, I think they would have had 7 to 8 sacks, and the story would have been, "Oh wow, the Seahawks defense dominated again." I think Ward made Brosmer, if he's back there, is not a mobile quarterback.
Mm-mm.
And look, it's a big task if he's in to get these guys motivated again, and they're at home and they got to win every game now. The playoff race is getting pretty tight. You can't take games off. There's like 4 teams battling for 3 spots. But if the Seahawks are motivated and they're hungry, those guys are out. That's just an impossible task. They're not a very good running team to begin with. Darsaw, it's just a 9-day situation. They don't really have a backup for him like they did last year where they had to trade for a guy. And Donovan Jackson, they don't really have a great backup either. Their interior O-line was a huge problem last year. It's been pretty bad again this year. You're setting them up to fail.
The only other thing I failed to mention was Tyrese Knight was also back at practice. So you get Ernest Jones and Tyrese Knight back. That could be good news. And all of a sudden, the linebacker room looks deep.
So that's right? The funny part. I was actually going to make that point. The position group we thought was the most unaddressed in the offseason, and once Tyrese Knight got his situation earlier this year where he got hurt and he almost missed time, we thought this was like a disaster zone. And when Ernest Jones went down, my takeaway from the crowd, and you saw me, I sat pretty high up, was I thought the linebackers were both really good. They had some hard hits. And I know I saw your tweet of PFF. PFF agreed with how I viewed O'Connell from the crowd. So this group, all of a sudden, with Knight coming back, looks 4 deep, and that's with Surratt. And our takeaway was maybe McDonald knows linebackers pretty well. Drake Thomas has been awesome. And that was a guy I had very low expectations for. O'Connell O'Connell looked pretty good. Not against a great team, obviously, but Ernest Jones doesn't play last week. Tyrese Knight doesn't play, and they're seamless. Now they're 4 deep, and they can play any of those guys next to Jones, and you'd be pretty comfortable.
Yeah, it's remarkable. It really is. The only other thing I wanted to kind of share news-wise, some Rams news, just to stay in the division. Not only did they claim Darian Kendrick off of waivers, they signed tight end Nick Vannett to the active roster, old Seahawk tight end Nick Vannett. They placed Roger McCreary, the cornerback that they acquired from Tennessee, on IR. So they had just lost Quentin Lake. Then they put Roger McCreary into the kind of the nickel spot. Now he's on IR. I'm guessing they're going to put Darian Kendrick into that spot now, but we'll see. They also opened their practice window for wide receiver Tutu Atwell, as well as cornerback Akella Witherspoon. Witherspoon's a really big deal in that. And Tutu Atwell is not a small thing either. But here's where I'm at, Jeff. I think like it's going to be very hard to win the division. I just think it's going to be very hard to win the division.
I think it's pretty much done at this point.
You beat the Rams. You still need them to lose another game to win the division. So I'm not sitting here spending a lot of time like figuring out what the Rams are going to do this way or the other. I'm more just like, all right, Seahawks, Sam Darnold, the biggest questions the Seahawks have, they need to work on addressing those, get to be as strong of a team as possible, get into the postseason and go as far as that style of football will take them.
Yeah, that's been my philosophy for a while now, but seeing the Rams, what they did, and they're clearly a step above a lot of the NFC right now. But yeah, I think for the Seahawks, winning the division is less important as cleaning up their own game and trying to peak at the end of the season. We've seen parts of their team work really well together. We've seen times where all 3 work together really well, where it's the Arizona game, the Washington game. But I think the biggest deal for their Seahawks is, can the offense be a little more sustainable? Can we get a little more comfortable with the running game? Can we just clean up some things we're seeing? And I think for the Seahawks, they can be the 1 seed, they can be the 5 seed, they can be the 4 seed. If they're peaking and things are going over this last month, they're going to be a really hard team to beat. But with the Sam Darnold thing, like that's going to be the question in the back of all our minds until we see him beat a good team or play well against the Rams. It's going to be hard to get that out of our head. But I think, again, more than seeding, it's just seeing this team peak. We saw it in 2 weeks. We saw it in 2 quarters against Houston. That's what this team needs to do to make a run.
Well, and I feel like I'm going to go completely against what I just said. The one other team that I feel like has a chance to give them trouble outside of Seattle during the regular season are the Detroit Lions, who they will play directly before they play the Seahawks on Thursday night. So the Detroit Lions got some pretty big news today when Frank Ragnow, all-pro center, comes out of retirement and is going to be, I mean, that's a huge, huge get for them. Additionally, Miles Frazier, one of their starting guards, activated off of PUP. Defensive end Marcus Davenport, one of their edge rushers, activated from injured reserve. And doesn't say this yet, but I know that they're expecting to get back some of their defensive backs as well. So maybe the Lions will get strong enough to where they can, give them more of a challenge than the Tampa Bay Bucks did.
Yeah, the Bucks have been sliding for really since that Niners game. The Bucks have not played good football, and Baker's been really skittish. And I watched a lot of those games. Emeka Ibuka got hurt, and he has not been the same player. That team has just been dwindling for a while. Like, fortunately, the Seahawks caught them at the worst time, right when they were peaking. And timing is everything. But the Lions, the thing that if you watch the Lions this year, the one thing you notice is they weren't nearly as physical on the offense. They weren't nearly as tough. And that was to do with losing some of their offensive linemen. They've had guys banged up. Taylor Decker's missed a bunch of games. I don't know what kind of shape Frank Ragnow's in right now, but he's been one of the best centers in the NFL for almost a decade. And going from him to Glasgow at center it's like going from Max Unger to Olu. It's a big drop-off. And they haven't felt like the same team. And if he's in the same form he was in the last few years, that's a massive, massive addition. Because defensively, they've been pretty mediocre. They haven't been great. Like Jameis Winston threw the ball all over them last week. But really what makes that team special is when they can be that physical with their skill players on offense. And they've played well. They beat the Rams in the playoffs a couple of years ago. They beat them in, I think, Sunday night last year, week 1. That's a team that's given the Rams trouble. The Goff-Stafford matchups have been really fun. So I didn't expect to see that news today. It could be a season-altering move for them.
Yeah. So we'll see. I still pretty much feel the way I said at the beginning. Seahawks got to focus on them. And we're going to talk about some Patreon questions here in a second for folks that haven't signed up at patreon.com/hawkblogger. Great time to do it. You get ad-free audio. You get a chance to ask us questions each and every week. You get access to the Discord server where you do ask questions and hang out with all of us. And right now, up until the Black Friday, you can get 10% off on annual membership. You go there, or you can give a gift of membership. Quick and easy, patreon.com/hawkblogger/gift will get you a chance to pick a 1 month, 2 month, 3 month, full year membership to Patreon. You can give to somebody nice and easy and pretty affordable too. So Jeff, let's talk about Sam Darnold and let's talk about this game for a second, the Vikings game.
Yeah.
I feel like the biggest thing that can come out of this game, obviously other than winning, is Sam Darnold getting a lot of chances to show how he can operate against the blitz and against pressure, because Brian Flores is going to bring it from everywhere.
And he even admitted that. He even said it yesterday in his press conference. It's like, I love Darnold, but I'm going to blitz the crap out of him. And so, yeah, we've seen that's the area what's made Darnold make mistakes when he gets pressured up the middle, and he's had issues. That Rams game when he was off schedule and he was rushed, when he had to play fast, he made a huge mistake. So I think this is a big spot for him, even though like they might be pretty weak at quarterback, so they might just play a conservative. But seeing how he does against this coordinator and this defense, I think it's very meaningful for him because they know him as well as any team in the league. And I hope they don't do it in week 1. They tried to do it, and they go into a shell and try to play such a generic offense. I hope
I don't think it's the worst idea if you were trying to win the game.
Yeah, it's not the worst idea, but for him, I was trying to learn something. I'm just hoping it doesn't happen.
That's right. I like if I was just saying give yourself the best chance to win this game, I would make the the week 1 game plan pretty much what you do here. And I think that they'd be better able to actually execute that game plan than they were then. I think Ken Walker would get more snaps. I think the run blocking would be better. And I think that, they would just not turn the ball over and let this defense go to work on Brosmer or McCarthy or whoever's back there. And I think they'd win the game.
Most
But to your
likely,
point,
I don't think that's helping them get to where they need to go. I think if you're trying to make the playoffs and slide in, that's great. But if you're trying to actually make a run, you can't approach it like that. I think Mike said, you got to let it rip. I think if you try to play scared and try to win the Pete Carroll, what they did with let Russ cook in the second half, you saw how that prepared for the playoffs. They didn't know what to do. And so I think that would be short-sighted, and I'd be pretty disappointed.
Yeah, I think that's the interesting part of this is, any coach, including Mike Macdonald, said goal is to go 1-0 every week and blah, 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 right? And so if that's the goal, you do whatever you can to win that game. But back to the point, you need Sam Darnold to get as many reps against complex defenses as possible. Exactly. That does not mean I want them to do some kind of crazy, heavy, pass-oriented doing that all the time. But it means like, all right, just run your offense and let's see how Sam can handle it. And the thing that's kind of, I feel like isn't discussed enough or acknowledged is Sam Darnold. It wasn't like he wasn't getting blitzed or under pressure in the first 6 weeks of the season or 7 weeks of the season. And he was just not putting the ball in harm's way. Like that was the thing I kept watching for. It wasn't like I came into the season thinking, Sam Darnold's going to be MVP level. There's all these video clips of me saying it's not likely he's going to do what he did in Minnesota last year. Where just like I was not super optimistic about how good he could be, but every game he wasn't the problem. He was not putting the ball in harm's way. He was making good reads. He was making accurate throws. Like everything was good. And now he's kind of fallen into, it's not just a few snaps. It's been like weeks of where when he gets into these bad moments, he's making bad decisions. And so I want to see a clean game. And I don't feel like last week was necessarily a clean game.
Yeah, there was about 3 throws last week that if they went a couple inches different way, he could have thrown a pick 6 on the first drive of the game. And imagine if you're sitting there and it's 0-0 at this point, he throws a pick 6 coming out of that Rams game. Like that would have been tough on every fan. Every fan would have covered their face. And I didn't like that throw. And obviously he gets hit on that deep ball and the ball goes right to the DB that should have caught that. And I know I got tipped, but I still didn't love the decision he made to Barner. I thought he took him too long to get to the ball. And I think he should have ran coming out of it. But yeah, it was not the clean game. Overall, I think he mostly kept out of harm's way, took the checkdowns when they were there. He was a little too safe at times. Like the throw he makes to Walker, he has a perfectly clean pocket and he rushes the ball out to them. Like and then there was a throw on 3rd down where he tried to gun it to Kupp and he threw it behind him between a couple guys. I didn't really understand that throw. He wasn't under pressure at all. I know it was a bit of a 3rd and long, and then down in the red zone, I didn't think he looked particularly good. I think he looked a little jumpy in the red zone, and they didn't score on their first 3 red zone series till the last one, the 4th one, where they hit JSN in the back of the end zone. But I didn't think the play calls were particularly good. I don't think they attacked. I don't think they used their personnel. And I think we need to see a little better from Kubiak. And week 1, what bothered us so much was there was no play action. And I think that's where Darnold is comfortable. And I think they need to create more for him, create easier throws for him, get guys in the flat. Like the play they do with Walker and getting Rob Utes in space and getting the ball out, like that's such a good play to like get the energy going, get the rhythm going. And they don't need to like grip it and rip it down the field. And they still haven't quite figured out the Shaheed thing, which has been a little weird considering Kubiak was with them. But I think they can do things a little bit better to make it easier on him.
Well, the wild thing there is, they scored 30 points.
I know.
And they're third. They're 0.1 points behind the Lions for second place. They're almost averaging 30 points a game. They're on pace to be the highest scoring Seahawks offense in franchise history.
JSN, the stuff JSN's doing is out of this world.
Yeah, and so the fun part of this, Jeff, is we're not trying to cobble together like a passable offense. We're trying to say, all right, here are the things that are going to potentially stay in your way from getting to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And so, like, yeah, Brian Flores is one of those guys that the film guys all love. He does all sorts of crazy stuff, and that's fine. I don't think the Vikings defense has been nearly as good as it was last year.
No.
It's been really, really porous against the run. And it's a really weird thing. And I talked about this with Mike McDonald today. Like, the fact that they have the lowest run rate against them, and they are a 4-7 football team who's been behind in most games, and that they're allowing a ton of yards on the ground, it's really weird. Like, somehow they are convincing teams to check out of run plays into pass plays and do what they shouldn't do, which is pass instead of run. So it's gonna be a really, really important matchup this week, even though, the win or loss probably doesn't make the biggest difference in terms of whether they make the playoffs. But yeah, I think it's that Sam Darnold thing that's really big.
Yeah, and this was such a big game when we first saw the schedule. It was supposed to be Darnold against McCarthy, and if the Viking, and the story's been so bad for the Vikings where they let Daniel Jones and Darnold out of the building, and they've got horrendous quarterback play. And I'm kind of bummed that McCarthy might not play. I want to see the Seahawks defense play him, and he's been. If you're like if you're a Schadenfreude guy, or if you like low lights, or if you want to just have a good laugh, like watching his turnovers this year have been wild. And now that Brosmer comes in, and it's not as fun because if the Seahawks just beat him up, it's just like, well, this guy's a UDFA, like there's not much to him. And if he ends up doing well or winning, then we all get nervous. And so there's not much we can gain from this. The McCarthy Darnold thing was just such a fun storyline. But yeah, seeing how he does against Flores should be really, really intriguing.
Well, I just remember preseason that there's a lot of like, oh, the Niners have the easy schedule, and Seahawks have a harder one. And I was looking at these game in particular. The Niners get the Bears, Seahawks get the Vikings. And I've asked you guys multiple times for the season, who would you rather play? And the answer generally has always been the Bears. Like, definitely would rather play the Bears. For me, I wasn't so sure, but that was the answer. Partially, I think, because the Vikings defense and what Flores can do. But I think right now, I think you'd rather play the Vikings than the Bears, right?
Well, yeah, they have a disastrous quarterback situation. McCarthy's been the last month or so, the last 6 games, one of the worst quarterbacks in the league. Statistically, eye test, whatever way you judge quarterbacks. And now we might have an even worse quarterback in there. I don't know much about what Brosmer could do at this level, but I think the Bears have been beating up on weak opponents for a while now. They have a negative point differential. Their defense is really injured. They're 8-3, and they're getting better. The Vikings have just been mid at best this year, and with bad quarterback play. So at this point, there's no way you would rather not play the Vikings. When a team's got quarterback play that bad, you got to choose that team.
Yeah. Well, let's take some Patreon questions, man. Patreon.com/hawkbloggers, where you can ask us your questions. And we didn't do a show during the week last week, and when we did do our Real Hawk Talk Live, we couldn't really do Patreon questions. So I'm going to go backwards a little bit. So some of these might be a little bit outdated, but Sam Brown asks, this is after the Rams game. Do you feel more A, comforted that McDonald's defense can clearly handle Shanahan McVay's offenses, or B, frustrated that Kubiak, Darnold, and the offense haven't carried their weight in these big matchups?
I want to say Darnold, but I don't agree with that last part. Like in the Tampa game, they got everything from Darnold and Kubiak. The San Francisco game, I thought Darnold got a bad rap. I think they had, I think what they asked him to do, I think it was really just the Rams. If we were just asking about the Rams game, hard answer is B. I think B would be the biggest concern from everyone because you can't really overcome that. The Seahawks almost had a perfect defensive performance and still lost the game. And so, but because you asked the question about other big games, I'm going to say A. I think the fact that that's repeatable, that's going to be important for any game going down the stretch. Just seeing what the Seahawks did to Stafford and seeing what Stafford did against the Bucs a week later, it's almost going to overlook just how good the Seahawks. He had 130 yards. He almost had it in the first quarter last week. So I'm going to go with A on this one. I think that gives you a chance to win every game, and no one's really done that to the Rams over the last 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Seahawks
Yeah.
had Ben Solak had that great graphic. I think it was the worst start of Stafford's career in terms of yards per pass, and so that's really meaningful. But I think if you just looked at that one game, the Darnold thing would even be bigger than that, though.
Yeah. Yeah. Fair. All right. Braxton asks, 11 weeks into the season, what Seahawks players do you think will be Pro Bowlers or All Pros?
I'm preparing to be disappointed, but here's who I think should be. All pros. I think Leonard Williams should be an all pro. I think JSN is obviously an all pro. I would think that's all.
All pros? Sorry, I
Yeah.
was reading the next question. You said JSN and who else?
Well, Leonard Williams.
I hope he's an all pro.
I don't think he will be. I think he's going to get a raw deal again. But like even Jeremiah talking about him the other day, he just said he was knocking back guys. And every time he watches film, he's writing all these notes. I think he's going to get overlooked again. I don't think he's at the counting stats. I think there's so many guys on this defense. He should be. I don't think he will be. I think we're going to get upset again.
I think there's a chance that Gray Zabel makes the Pro Bowl. I'm not saying that he should, but I think that he has gotten so much positive press. And like Baldinger, like I'm sure you watch his breakdown about him against Jeffrey Simmons,
Yeah,
not
that
you,
was
but
awesome.
the other one. There's some good wins in there. I mean, everything about that guy, I think, is something the NFL likes to promote. I just have a feeling he's going to get some love. I think that's an outside chance.
I think
Witherspoon
Byron Murphy
has been a Pro Bowler both years. I think there's a chance he'll be another Pro Bowler this year.
I think Byron Murphy will be a Pro Bowler this year. They just had him on NFL Network before our show, and they literally asked him about it, and it wasn't the most exciting interview. I don't know how much you've talked to Byron.
I've talked to Byron quite a bit.
He seemed very shy and very humble, and not a lot of quotes there. But I think a lot of their guys are just going to go unrecognized. Like DeMarcus Lawrence to me has been amazing this year. I don't think he's getting a Pro Bowl. I think Derek Hall's played way better than his numbers indicate. Tariq Woolen, since like he was on the fritz of being benched, I think he in this new role has played really, really well. I don't think
so good right now, man.
Yeah, I don't think he'll be a Pro Bowler though.
Ernest Jones,
I think Cross might be.
Cross maybe. He doesn't get a lot of pub, and there's a lot of tackles in the NFC.
Well, that's the problem.
You know, Mailata and Lane Johnson, and you know, you got the guy that Penei Sewell, and so many tackles.
But outside of that, I think the Seahawks still have a very well balanced. They're getting contributions from everyone, but I don't know if they have enough guys who would like Julian Love's not playing most of the year. Don't think he'd get one.
Well, let's do this real quick, just for funsies. Who do you think is playing at a Pro Bowl level? Like whether or not they get the Pro Bowl. Like let's just go through that list. Let's start on offense. I think Darnold for sure. JSN for sure.
I don't think Zabel. I think Zabel's good but not great.
Yeah.
I think he's had a very good rookie season, but I don't think he's a Pro Bowler.
If they separated out right versus left tackles, I think Abe Lucas is pretty close to that.
Yeah. I would say Abe is at a Pro Bowl level.
Yeah, he's pretty close. The tight ends I don't think are quite there.
No.
Running backs are not quite there given the way they've been used. So then flip over to the other side, defensively.
2 defensive tackles for sure.
Leo and Byron Murphy. I think DeMarcus Lawrence has played at a Pro Bowl level.
So do I. I was going to say.
I think Uchenna Nwosu's played pretty close to a Pro Bowl
level.
He
hasn't had enough of a stretch, but that 3-game sample, he looked as good as any player on the defense.
Ernest Jones to me is a no-brainer.
Yeah.
I think Tariq Woolen has played at that level. I think Nicky Manwari's played. I think Nicky Manwari might make the Pro Bowl.
Nicky Manwari, do they have a nickel spot? Like, where does he get judged? Safety?
I don't know, but man, he's been so good.
He is incredible. Like the stuff he's doing. Like he's not the perfect player at this point, but the way he's adjusting, the way people can attack them, like that pick looks brilliant.
There was a time that Josh Jobe was there. I don't know that he's sustained it. So
one thing that I saw at the game is the Titans were picking on him a little bit. He didn't have a great game against the Titans. He's kind of fallen off a little bit.
All right. Well, that was fun. Thanks for the
Jason
question,
Myers,
Paxton. Sure, maybe. He's missed a few. But
he
sure.
didn't hit the 62-yarder, so that's a no.
61. Let's make
Okay,
sure
we'll
we're
be
not
nice. He
overstating.
wasn't even close though.
It wasn't even close. I was sitting there in the press box. I'm like, he barely made the 57. There's no way this is going in. No way.
Yeah, I knew that.
So another question. This is from Silk, and this was meant for our live show, which again we didn't take the questions, but he says, "What's your go-to Seahawks enjoying drink?" I'm not exactly sure what that means, but
Like
I
during the
assume
games,
sure. Let's assume that's what the question is.
I'm so nervous during these games. I like to drink before the game when I'm on the road, but during the game I don't really drink much. I can barely eat sometimes. I get so into the game.
Yeah.
I like when I'm on the road. I like to have like a whiskey, Diet Coke. I like to have maybe even a shot of whiskey. I like to get fired up, and so I'm just relaxed during the game. If I'm watching a game at home, I'm probably just having like a Coke Zero or something like that, and just relaxing. But I get very nervous during the games. I think Derek and Josh and Evan, who sat beside me and heard me complain for 3.5 hours, were a little shocked. But what I get like during the game, I think Derek was a little confused too, that I just complain about play calls and strategy. And then after the game, I'm like, oh, yeah, that was a good time. And they're like, well, you complained for 3 hours. And I'm like, no, that's just
that's just our
that's just
our
my
heritage.
neurotic side. I was not happy about a punt. I was not happy about going for a 1 4th down. I think I threw some guys
You're the
off,
best, dude. Yeah.
but yeah, I'm not a big drinker during games. I'm sure a lot of guys would have a beer or an old fashioned or something fun like that, but I get locked in, man. I can't eat. I can't drink during the games. I'm focused.
I think my during game drink is a bottle of water, so my voice is works so I can scream. But before the game, usually, I mean, it used to be like a whiskey or vodka and Red Bull, and just like I don't think my body can take that anymore.
You probably
I generally do a Moscow Mule. Maybe I'll do a margarita once in a while, and then also, I mean, beers now and then. But we do a lot of like Boilermakers, or beer shot combos. That's one of my favorites. So, all right, a couple more questions here. Nolan says, "What do you think about our coaching staff's ability to make in-game adjustments? Is it a concern, especially offensively?"
It is one of the knocks about Kubiak that he hasn't been great at that. I know like a lot of the New Orleans fans had said like get ready for no in-game adjustments, but by the end of the year they had no talent. So how can you blame the coach for that? I haven't noticed it being a huge issue.
Me neither.
And like really the issues I've had have been like individual plays, or I don't think there's been a game where in the game there was a clear adjustment they should have made and they didn't do it. Like I think they've done a pretty good job. Like JSN should be double covered on every play. And they've been really good at finding ways to get him in space, finding ways to defend, getting him on a safety last week. Other than the San Francisco game, which I thought was an awful performance from Kubiak, I don't really think there's another game where I was just like, well, they didn't really adjust properly. So I don't see that as being the issue. I see other issues have been reasons why they only lost 3 games, and one of them was a Darnold 4 interception game, and the other was on the defense. So I don't know if
It's
there's
kind
really
of a weird premise given that the Seahawks have been ahead in almost every single game.
yeah.
So what adjustments do you really need to make? So yeah, I mean,
Like I know they haven't been able to close out games, and the fourth quarter differential has not been great because they get into these situations where they can't finish them, and they've had games where they don't know what to do with the lead. Those are different, but I don't think that's an
that's not an
adjustment.
adjustment, right? Like
Yeah.
the closest thing I'd say is like they fell down 14-0 against the Rams or whatever it was,
43.
and 14-3, right? And I actually liked the way they handled that. They didn't turn into like freak out show. We're going to panic and we're going to change everything. They went back and they grounded on the ground. They didn't necessarily get into the end zone, which would have been nice, but those were a couple of good drives that made it 14-9 before, it didn't end up going the right way. But that's a reasonably close approximation to an in-game adjustment. And I thought that was okay. So I think we both don't.
Yeah, I don't
issue.
think I'd agree at that point.
All right. Jen has, do we think that Clint Kubiak has been putting Sam in the best position for his skill set? And this is a related question. Do you think Sam is getting good enough coaching from Andrew Janoko?
Look, it's hard for me to identify what the quarterback coach is doing but Darnold's had the best year of his career. I think they've played very well to his skill set, where downfield accuracy, most of the year, play action passing, getting him on boots. Like the way he throws rolling to his left for a right-handed quarterback is very impressive. And then you can see why he's a top 5 quarterback. I think he needs to run even more. I think the Rams game, I think the Titans game, he had pretty good opportunities to run. I do think those guys, for the most part, are using his skill set really well. I think he's great with play action. I think they need to do more of that. I think they get away from that sometimes. But I get what they're trying to do a lot of the time. They get a little weird sometimes with like situations where that they need to run and they're passing when they have the lead and things like that. But I think you can say both the quarterback coach and the offensive coordinator have done a really good job this year.
I agree. I don't have a lot more to add to that. Last question here is from Neil G. Says, how would you rank the impact of our top 3 corners this season? Who would you prioritize to re-sign, and how much money would you anticipate they'd each command?
Ooh, that's a tough question.
Well, so Witherspoon is not going to be a free agent. Job and Tariq Woolen will be. I mean, let's just first let's pull open the contracts for corners right now, the top corners. I've kind of assumed, Jeff, that Tariq Woolen's going to be in the over $25 million a year bucket.
Yeah.
If I look at the cornerback market, top of the cornerback market right now is Sauce Gardner at $30 million a year, Derek Stingley $30 million a year. Then it drops down to J.C. Horn at $25 million. Patrick Surtain's at 24.
Ooh, that was a good deal.
So, and these guys are in their low mid 20s, so similar kind of ages as what I think you're talking about. 20 million, 20 to 25 probably for Tariq Woolen. Would you agree with that?
I think 20. I think 20, 21 is where I would guess.
With in the open market, you don't think someone's going to decide with his skill set and the way he's played that they're going to go up to 25?
Probably, but I'm just thinking like that Patrick Surtain deal wasn't that long ago, and he's such a complete player.
Mm-hmm.
But still, I think 20 to 25 is pretty safe. And I don't think people are talking about it enough, but I think Witherspoon's playing really well. I thought he was really good in the Rams game. I think the Titans game, he made a tackle on the edge that was just incredible, and that would have been a huge play. I think his coverage has been better now that he's kind of out of the slot and he's playing a lot more outside. I know Evans brought this up. Like, is Witherspoon a bust at 5th overall? I think he's been quietly incredible since he's come back.
He's been really good. He's been really good. Yeah, I mean, if money was not the deciding factor, I would rather have Tariq Woolen and Devin Witherspoon than Devin Witherspoon and Josh Jobe. And it's not because I think Josh Jobe's bad. I just, as I've said very consistently, Tariq Woolen is an alien. There's not players like him around. I like him as a person, and I like him as a player, and I think the team's best with him.
Yeah, it's been weird because people have gone at you on Twitter being like, Brian brought up these weird narratives about Tariq Woolen, and I was like, I listen to every of your point. You've been one of the biggest. I've said some tough things about Woolen. I know Evan has. You've been one of the biggest supporters of him. So I found it weird that some people have gone at you about you put out some bad new. You were just asking a question what the coaches might be thinking, and I just want to say whoever's coming at you with that they're out of control. That's way off.
I don't know. I haven't seen that. I'm not surprised to hear it. People come at me for all sorts of reasons, but fact of the matter is, I've always believed that Tariq Woolen is the guy that you want if you can get it to work out. I don't know that they're going to spend that kind of money on him. Josh Jobe, I mean, Jobe could be in the 15 million range. I mean, the guys in that range, like DJ Reed, Zion McCollum, makes 16 million a year. Diamador Lenore makes 18 million. I don't think he's going to get into that category, but I think the 15 to 17 maybe.
Yeah.
What's that?
I'd say 12.5 would be a good number for him.
Yeah. Yeah. That's 12 million is Brandon Stevens. I mean, Marcus Jones. These are pretty
Yeah, I
great
think that's kind of
corners.
where Job is. He's the third corner.
I think he's proven that he can be a second corner.
Yeah.
I think he's a little bit more valuable than those guys. But anyway, like who
If
knows?
if the question is pay Job 15 million or Woolen 20, I'm taking Woolen 20 all day.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so closing minutes for us. Let's talk about this game, man. And by the way, patreon.com/hawkblogger. That's where you can go to get ask us questions and get ad-free audio for this show. Before we get to our predictions, we should also talk quickly. Sleeper is our sponsor, and it's a great time to go over and check out the Sleeper app if you haven't already. Here we go. This is what I was looking for. For a limited time, you can get $20 without making a deposit. And if you use promo code Hawks, you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Check out Sleeper today. All right, Jeff. What's going to be the score of this game between the Seahawks and the Vikings?
I will say 27-13.
27-13. It's crazy. The Vikings were 3-point favorites coming into Seattle last year. They're now 10.5-point underdogs at this point in the week. It's a big swing, and how these teams are kind of going in different directions. Yeah, I like that. You had 27-13, like a 13-point win. Is that what you said?
14-point win.
27-13 is 14-point win. Yes. Yeah, I'm gonna go with 30 to 17 Seahawks on this one. I want to predict less points for the Packers or for the Vikings than that, but that's just the number that kind of comes into my head. I think the Seahawks have a lot of advantages. I think the run game is going to be really important. I'd love to see, let's get a Ken Walker game. Let's get a 140-yard plus on the ground kind of game, and let's get some Rashid Shaheed going in this one.
That's what I want to see.
Let's just more importantly, let's see if we can get a clean Sam Darnold game. Can we get back-to-back no turnover games? That would be a really big deal if you can do that. Has not happened all season long.
No, and it's more of a they're not playing, but I just want to see the offense look pretty good and sustainable again. The second half got a little ugly on offense, but I kind of understood where that game was going. Now they're back at home. They're going to be fired up. This is a game you want to see the defense take over, but I think big picture, I don't think we're going to learn a lot from this defensive performance. I think a lot of our focus will be on what Darnold does.
100%. Good stuff, Jeff. I'll be back with you Saturday for Seahawks Saturday.
Before I get going, I want to say it. Everyone who I met or got to meet at our live show last week, just thank you. That blew my mind. It was so cool to meet all these people from so many different parts of America. We met a guy from Germany, but everyone's listening now or who's going to listen later. I just want to say, I was blown away by how cool everyone was, how easy it was to talk to everyone, how many people came up to me. We just talked about life and the Seahawks and our history. Thank you for listening. And I can't wait. The live show, yeah, like Dana said, I did not know what I was going to get into. We've had some dinners before with Patreon members and things like that, but I was blown away just how nice and likable. I met people I hope to meet again, and it was so cool to meet all these people and hope to run into them at future road games.
I love that. And I forgot there was a couple super chats here. Detail Aren't Bobby says, Brian and Jeff, I just want to thank you for all you guys do. I don't think people will realize how much work this is. Yes, you enjoy it, but you bring so much to the community and you don't get enough credit. We love you guys. That is amazingly nice, Bobby. Thank you. We heard that in different ways from a lot of people there. It's honestly, it's exactly we do this because we want to talk to each other about this, but I think we also are hoping that we can help keep people company and create community, and it means a lot to us. Zach Schwartz, the last one here, says, if there's a coach that was likely to get drunk and lose his shoes, who would it be? I don't know if this is Seahawks specific or in a general. Across the league,
so I learned from talking to a certain visitor to our show that Mike Vrabel was a crazy partier in his day. And I was talking to an ex-Seahawks player at our event, and he said that he would have taken Gronk to school in terms of over-the-top partying. And I was shocked. He seemed so tight and buttoned up all the time. And I was told Vrabel, who is a wild man. But I'm trying to think of who would that be on the Seahawks.
Well, no one can do it like Derek Gebby can do it. That's for sure. In terms of getting drunk and losing his shoes.
Zach, you know, I found the shoes, right?
Yeah.
I found the shoes Monday morning, and I had to find him at the airport. I went to the airport way earlier and Josh has a video of me delivering his shoes. But for the Seahawks, who would that be?
Well, anyone in the NFL. It could be anyone. Yeah, I think, you know, Dan Campbell might be up there, but he seems pretty responsible. I think Vrabel's a good call. I wonder about Sean McDermott.
Brian Dable would have been a good pick.
Brian Dable would have been the obvious one for sure.
Yeah.
You know, maybe Brian Schottenheimer. I don't know, man. It's kind of hard to say.
Schotty's can you win the game? The first quarter speech. I can't believe
he did. He's you know, an homage to Pete. At least somebody's winning with that speech this year, because it's certainly not Pete. All right. Well, happy Stranger Things Day to those who celebrate. I'm about to go watch Stranger Things with my whole family. My son has been waiting for this for years at this point. So gonna go do that. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving to all who celebrate, and have a great rest of your night. Take care. This was another episode of Real Hawk Talk.